To order, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that time comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violation of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public during this time. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Okay. Any recognition of individual delegations or correspondence?
We have, which is also in my report, but thank you and a $100 donation from Shannon Flynn and Diamond City Mountain Relay for use of our AED at their run this summer. So that was very kind.
Good. Okay. Items for discussion, the elementary building project.
Okay. I'll start off with the press box. Everybody can see that it got tore down since last time. I think everybody's pretty happy with that. They've got the footings, foundations are done. They're going to be pouring slabs tomorrow, and they'll start the framing piece of that. So that's off and running. Seems to be going well. Hopefully we can get out of the way so the kids can get a little bit of their playground back. So from that perspective, it looks like the press box is going pretty well. So middle school, we'll start fire alarm testing. Actually starts tomorrow, as well as the PA testing. That'll start getting us to our occupancy. There's a lot of cleaning left to be done. One of the good things that came out, we thought at the last meeting, I think I brought up potentially we might not have the ceilings. It seems like the ceilings are going to be here in time. That's been verified. So we're going to be able to have ceilings and lights to be able to operate. We're going to start a punch list on the building on Monday, and that's really tight that they're going to be cleaning most of the week. A bunch of little touches and finishes up, and we kind of knew that this was always going to be the case, that they always are. But all in all, I think pretty happy that they're going to be able to turn it back over to us in time, that the teachers will be back. The parking lot and the drive lanes will all be cleaned up. They've got plans to make sure that all the steel's out of the way, so we shouldn't have issues there. I know that we talked about busing and moving the kids around today, so I think between Dick Anderson, they're willing to do whatever we need them to do. I think the communication's going really well, so we should be pretty good from that perspective. Let's see. Outside of that, no major hiccups as far as, I hate saying that out loud, but nothing big this round on contingency wise. We're holding very, very steady. We're doing well. Just minor little things that we've been picking off, but obviously you can see all that on Procore and on the updates. You can track it, but nothing big has come up. So we're tracking contingency, and from that perspective, I'm happy where we're at with our contingency, but I never get complacent. So with that, everything seems to be going pretty well, knock on wood. Is there any questions?
On the first item, the press box, when will that be? When do you anticipate that'll be finished? I'm just curious.
I'm going to give it probably 4 weeks. I'm going to guess somewhere around there, depending on how the metal comes in. Probably have a lot of metal that goes on the siding and the roofing. 4 or 5 weeks. It might be a little sooner. We'll see.
1st of September, sometime.
Yeah, and it might be a little faster, but I don't want to throw that out. There's not a lot of finishes in there, obviously. It's pretty open and it's a non-conditioned space, so it could potentially be faster, but as soon as I say it, that something will happen. So I don't want to do that.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Any other questions for them? Okay. ESSER application public input. I think there's a couple people here to talk about the ESSER.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm John Hahn with Tina Holman here with representing Stoke. I don't know if most of you know what Stoke is. We've had some fairly good success programs since we started. One of them is a sewing program. Laura Frazier, one of your employees, I believe, has started a sewing class and has been real successful. She started out with 3 or 4 girls, and I think she moved into 2 or 3 more classes. She took August off, but she's going to go back into it. And so it'd be those kind of programs, I think, that we probably would be looking at. If we could be work with the school, I guess, on some of those programs. We had talked in the beginning of doing some after-school programs. That was during the COVID there, and I think you guys had lost some funding or something for some of your after-school programs. So we thought if we could fill in maybe and help with that point. Our mission is to help kids further their education through different skill choices and career choices. And so if we can either maybe help tutor if that comes our way, or run a summer educational program, or do some other educational programs that are different from what the school is doing, that maybe we can help that way. We have no idea how much money would be available for something like that. We just have to kind of play it by ear, I guess. So, but we are offering, and we've worked with Sherry and Brad and Eric when they're around, a lot with Sherry. She got tired of us calling her.
No.
But anyway, just things like that. We're just basically offering our help. Anything to do for the kids. And I just wanted to mention there was one book that I had read, and it was called The Last Dropout. And this was a fellow that was a dropout himself. And then he eventually helped kids that couldn't go to school or were dropped out or whatever. And he said the kids don't need a project, they need a relationship. And I think that's what we're trying to provide, especially like the sewing class. We also have a game night every 2 weeks. It's been hard to run that because we don't have enough volunteers to keep enough adults around when that happens, but it's been more successful all the time. And we started out just with kids participating, but then we found out that if we keep some adults in there, then they can interact a lot easier. And so that's been successful. And programs like that, we've tried some outdoor programs, and we just haven't had real good response from some of the kids. But I think it's because we were new and it would be coming up. So like I say, we're just offering our help, and whatever you can do through ESSER, I guess, would benefit us. We'd be appreciated.
Thank you.
So John, do you guys have kind of a schedule, Tina, a rough schedule of what you might be doing in the fall or anything like that? Or is it just kind of all in the planning stages of the year right now?
More planning, I think.
Okay.
We've had lots of different ideas,
Okay.
whether it will work, I guess.
And what age groups are you seeing as far as people participating in your?
We were starting off with thinking about the high schoolers and maybe the last year of middle school, but we're learning quickly that we should go down in age to a younger age group to be able to engage the kids. It seems like the older ones, they already have their minds set on what is cool and what is not cool. And I think if we can grow this program and then the younger kids that are young at first, they will probably stay with the program and become potential leaders. I guess another thing,
You're okay.
I would like to add is we have the lodge available as another facility. So, it could look like an extra campus for some programs that you might be thinking about. And whether that's going through Stoke or on a different level, I'd love to see the lodge being used more. And I think, as far as I know, the school always struggles for more space. So that's something we can offer. And a lot of the programs we have in mind, our trouble is funding, since we're a fledgling new nonprofit. And that would help us out immensely. And I think we can help you out by enhancing learning the soft skills that, to me, every teenager is lacking. So I think we could really become great partners.
Well, we had kind of discussed that early on, that to start with, you might find that it's going to be the younger kid that, a lot of the high school kids are pretty stress-free and with all their activities, but not all. I mean, there's always that just to find the right thing that they want to do, so.
Right. To get them excited.
Well, let us know if there's what we can do to help, and I definitely can always put information out for you, and, maybe we should look at some kind of a survey to find out, what might be some possible things that they would be interested in or something. So once we get school started, give me a holler. We'll talk.
You think they'll read their Google?
Oh, not yet, no. Well, like I said, let me get school started where I have them in tow, and then we'll talk. We'll figure something out. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for reaching out. I think we have a great opportunity to partner, and I talked to Amanda Domino also, and she is, I love the passion when she talks about the outdoor education ideas that you guys have that integrate science and those kinds of things. And so I look forward to meeting with you in the next week, like we talked about on the phone. I'm glad you were able to make it tonight. And ESSER funding, this especially where I see it fitting in is in ESSER 3, we have 20% of that has to be set aside for learning loss. And so that is for after school funding and summer school programs, those kinds of things, to provide additional learning opportunities that students lost during COVID. So hopefully that would be an area of our funding source where we would be able to partner.
Okay, great. Just let us know if you want any information from us.
Yeah, I look forward, we'll set up a meeting soon. I talked to John on the phone earlier, so look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for clarification, and I'm good on acronyms, and a lot of people don't know. So what is ESSER and what is ARP? Can you just kind of maybe help me on that, please? Thank you.
Yes, let me find and we have a packet of the ESSER application if anybody wants a copy of it to look at that we're asking for input on. There's extra copies right over there. And so and they don't even spell out their own acronym here. I don't want to get it wrong. I'm going to read it right off of here for you, unless anybody else has it on the tip of their tongue.
ARPA, yes. ARPA is the American Recovery Plan Act.
And
That's the
ESSER,
federal
yeah.
program.
I know what that one is. Thank you.
Yeah, and ESSER is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund.
Say that again.
Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. Just wanted to make sure I got it right. Thank you. So, yeah, and so the ESSER application for how we are going to utilize the funds to improve our school, the blank template's right there. Yep. And this is due on the 24th. And then the budget funding stream that is associated with it is due on the 1st. And those are due to the Office of Public Instruction. And so anybody else that has any input, this is obviously the blank one. We will have the filled out application posted as soon as possible. It was a quick turnaround. They just opened the application to us, so we haven't had a lot of time to work on it yet, but we're in the process and we'll have it posted. And at our next meeting on the 19th, we will have details and have it completely filled out and be taking more input.
One more question. Sorry for holding you up, but does the district know how much funding is available in this program is due the 24th.
Yes, so our school district has received all of our ESSER allocations. So we received an ESSER 1 allocation, ESSER 2 allocation, and then an ESSER 3 allocation. This application is for what we're going to do with our ESSER 2 and 3 funds. So this application is just for what we're going to do with ESSER 2 and 3 funds. And ESSER 2 and 3 funds had additional requirements, and one of those was to make sure we asked for public input and shared our application and how we were going to use the funding with the public. And another one of those requirements was, like I said, to use 20% of the ESSER 3 funds, not the ESSER 1 or 2, but of the ESSER 3 funding pot towards learning loss. The first 2 funding streams were quite a bit more flexible, where we could, do safety, facilities, salaries, all different kinds of things. And you can do that with most of the ESSER 3 funds as well, but 20% needs to go towards instruction to work on that learning loss for your students.
Now, if I remember right, the ESSER timeframe runs through August of 2024, was that, or 2023?
The ESSER 3 funds have to be obligated by September of 2024.
Okay, thank you.
Consent action items, minutes and warrants.
I'll move to approve the minutes and warrants.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes and warrants as presented. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Final budget meeting.
So we are asking that we set the final budget meeting for August 19th.
I move to set the final budget meeting for August 19th.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to set the final budget meeting for August 19th, 2021. I'm going to say 6 o'clock. Is that correct?
Correct. And we will do the budget as is done usual, as well as the ESSER application once again, and the ESSER budget. We will discuss that. So,
Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Action items. Use the bond interest and premium on middle school mechanics projects. There are basically 2 options here. I guess I'll let Ms. Hedlund take it.
are you sure you can? All right. So the current building fund premiums interest, premium with interest, you have those numbers right there in front of you. That is current. So there have been a couple of things paid from that, such as insurance on our project. As you go down to the next slide, line item, you see the interest from the bond in total, not from the premium. And so then you see and it looks like, oh yeah, I just don't have a decimal at the end. So then you see the 2 million plus on the total when we combine the premium and the bond interest. So previously, as a board, you guys agreed to use around, or I have the number of $588,000, which would leave well over $2 million in the premium and interest. So the point of this is to utilize $396,800,000 to do the middle school mechanics projects out of that budget.
Yeah, to elaborate on that, I guess, I sent everybody that informational email. When we sat down and started putting our ESSER budget together, we kind of split that roughly, so much was going to go to life safety things, mechanical upgrades, things that qualified under ESSER. The other things go into the educational components, the learning loss, the extra things we need to deal with the response. But then as we looked at that, obviously the middle school portions of mechanical, are part or could be part of our bond because they were originally, and then we pulled them out because of, as the cost got, we decided to just kind of set those on the back burner, knowing that when we got down the road, if the premium and interest funds were there, that we could bring those back into the project. Also looking at doing the things in the high school that qualify under the ESSER, we've identified more things. The more we've thought about it, there are more things in the high school that we can do with those ESSER funds, but we can't use bond money, obviously, for the high school items. So the question, or, I guess what I'm recommending based on the things I've thought about and talking with Susie and Sean, we visited on the committee about that, is I think it would be wise to utilize that opportunity to use the bond dollars for the middle school component and shift that ESSER component back to things that we can do in the high school. We have a number of these things that are, especially in the middle school, they've served their life. They're not dead, they still work, but it's only a matter of time until they don't. And there's some things in the high school that we've identified that, are nearing the end of their life cycle. Easy way to put it is, we have the funds available from the two sources that I think we have the ability to tackle those things in a good point or a good place in our budget. That if we wait a few years, if we decide we don't want to do those, we get down the road a ways, we won't have those funds potentially.
Yeah, if we didn't do it now.
If we don't do it now. There is the time limitations that we have to budget these funds, same with our bond dollars. Once we get to the end of the project, that premium money, we have to decide how we're going to use that. And, the middle school portion to me seems like a logical place to do that and have the ESSER funds to do the things that bond dollars can't.
And there are needs for the ESSER funds in other ways. Some could be used towards boilers and things like that that need to be taken care of in the high school, but also we do have a need for curriculum and for, interventionists to help with these students that have had the learning loss challenges, and professional development for the staff and those kinds of purchases that are high dollar. And we have the opportunity to use ESSER funds for those. So it's not that we got, a lot of ESSER money and we don't have places where we need to spend it, because we do. So.
Do you guys want to touch briefly on the mechanical side of things that we've talked about in the, especially like the high school and some of those things that aren't part of the building project?
Yeah, so when that came up, when you guys asked us about that, Rich went and met with Jim and walked through all your mechanical components that he knows are on the last slide. One of the big ones obviously is your domestic water heater. That's on its way out. But at length, I'll let Rich talk about the intricacies of which pieces of equipment and stuff that we did look at.
So primarily what we're looking at is at original high school. There's about 21,000 square feet that's still in service. That's built, I think, in 63. There's an air handler that serves 6 classrooms. There's your shop area. You have woodworking and metal shop that have very old equipment. So that's really the bulk of it. And then the original gym has those old air handlers and the air handlers that serve the locker room area. And all that stuff's pushing 60 years old. Jim's done a good job to keep it running. So, but at some point you just can't keep it running, and you'll never get cheaper money than this. And it's something that you're going to need to do, regardless whether you choose to do it now or you choose to do it in a few years. It's right there. And I think the hot water system is the same age as the the hot water, for hand washing and whatever else, the shower area. That boiler is as old as those hot water boilers that we replaced for heating. And I know when the contractor was in there working, he mentioned to me, he goes, it's a little bit scary when that thing fires up. I said, so scary we need to turn it off? He goes, no, but he said, you need to make sure they understand that needs to be budgeted for and replaced. And then there's 2 pumps that circulate that through the school. So there's nothing fancy here. This, when you own a house, you gotta put a heater in, you gotta change out your hot water heater. It's just 21,000 square feet. It's a big facility.
And those air handlers in the back do not work well. So, yeah, number the shop, the FCS room with the kitchen, and yeah, they aren't working real well, and they haven't for a long time. Same with the gym. If anybody attends a game in that gym, you understand how there's no air in there, so, yeah. You could.
So the bond can handle everything in middle school and elementary school, but it can't touch, those monies cannot touch anything in the high school. And that's why with this is an opportunity to go ahead and take care, because of the ESSER funds, an opportunity to be able to address those particular issues. Because we wouldn't be able to with bond dollars otherwise.
Yeah, your specific language, and remember, when we set this, the bond language, everything, it specifically, the high school was out.
Right.
It was not, other than life safety, which was we knew we were gonna have to do fire alarm, and then a secure entry. That was the 2 things that we kept in, but outside of that, I know that Dan Simmons wouldn't let us go replace mechanical equipment in high school with bond. I don't think he would allow that. In fact, I can tell you right now, there's no way he would allow us to do that, so. And so it made sense to do it in the middle school from the perspective that is within our bond language. That was something that at one point we did want to try to accomplish. We just knew that was outside of our budget to be able to do that. And it would be a good idea for you guys to take care of that, whether you used ESSER or bond. But we ran into a couple other issues because we were going down the road of looking at how to be able to take this out under ESSER. With all the federal rules, what it started doing is giving us a real problem with when we take this out to bid, because this will go out publicly for bid. All of a sudden now we've got federal Davis-Bacon, we have all the federal rules that apply to it, to that project, and I want to make sure that we still can give Dick Anderson the ability to bid on this and not have to change their contracts out to match all the federal requirements. So this kept it a lot cleaner to be able to pull this off, utilize bond dollars, we can keep it within, it's still going to be publicly bid, but it'll be able to stay under the same contract language versus trying to drag in. When you start mixing federal Davis-Bacon and prevailing wage, this happened during the days of the ARA funds. I don't know if you remember those during the,
Back in the day.
Well, no, just the
2009.
2009, sorry. Yeah, and then when they had the ARA funds, shovel-ready projects, well, we took out a bunch of projects based on federal funding, and so we utilized Davis-Bacon following all the rules. By the end of the projects, what we found out was then the state came in, Dave Lucky with the state came in, when they were looking through all of the payouts for Davis-Bacon. Well, there was certain classifications of workers that actually got paid higher in Montana prevailing wage than they do in Davis-Bacon, and then conversely. So we actually had to go back and you have to combine both Montana prevailing wage and Davis-Bacon, put them in the same bid, and pick the highest of either one. So it really complicates it when you tie those together. And we ended up having to go back and pay all the people the higher wages from the Montana prevailing wage, even though Davis-Bacon was required. I want to keep us from not having to do that. I would like to just set this out specifically as its own project. The high school would allow us to do that. Middle school, we can keep that still in, under normal contract stuff and give Dick Anderson the ability to compete for it.
And I think ESSER funds, and correct me if I'm wrong, ESSER funds will be audited. And so that'll be cleaner in that aspect as well.
Yeah, and in discussing this at length with your guys' attorney, that they agreed. So,
Yeah, yes, yeah, okay. All right, and then final question, I'm sorry for, you guys too, for monopolizing here just a bit. But, so the 396, 800, that's essentially, with some additional curriculum, that's essentially the additional components in the high school that we were discussing cumulatively.
No, that's the
No,
middle
that's
school.
where-
That's middle school, oh,
Yeah.
great, thank you so much for correcting me on that. That's right, okay, that's
That's
right.
the middle
yes.
school. That's the chunk we want to go back to the
To.
bond dollars with.
Right, okay, got it. Too many numbers.
yeah, and we're very austere. I mean, that number is not, this is,
Yeah.
we're going in and replacing that equipment and putting in new, the controls were already gonna be there, but we're gonna upgrade the controls because the new units are gonna be much better units. But there's nothing fancy with this. We wanted to keep it very, hey, we're replacing, I don't wanna say like for like, because obviously you're gonna get a piece of equipment now that you can control, is actually more efficient. But it's nothing, we're not doing a big grand system.
It's a similar system. Basically, you're still gonna have unit ventilators in those middle school classrooms. Or just, instead of the 60-year-old one, you have a brand new one.
Similar but better.
Yeah, again, be quiet and bring in more outside air. And it'll be, they didn't have computers in the 60s when those were built, so you turn them on, turn them off. These will be able to modulate the fan speed and all of that.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time for my questions.
I guess if anybody else has questions or.
On the high school project, are we able to look at the existing mechanical in the high school and the new part of the high school? We've had problems with that heat exchanger up there, the heat wheel.
Yeah, we actually, go ahead and talk about that. We did talk about that a little bit.
Everybody has problems with heat wheels.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an obsolete technology at this point because they don't last. So the energy code will require some level of energy recovery, and they have a couple new energy recovery technologies that we'll be looking at utilizing primarily for the old shower rooms. So are you asking that we also look at the other shower rooms of the newer edition where that heat wheel is?
I don't know if they're associated with any shower rooms there. It's actually above the stage.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've been up there and looked at that or not, but it's part of the central air system for the newer part of the high school.
For that newer gym?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how that works, but that heat wheel uses, I'm trying to remember how that stupid thing works. Part of the problem we have is it needs to be cleaned. It's really inefficient when it's covered with dust, and you can't get to it to clean it. You only get to a part of it at one time. And I guess in the past, we looked at different heat exchangers, different systems to use in there. So I think the burners are still, they're 2006 is when those burners and that system was put in. But I don't know if there's any way to upgrade the efficiency on that. I think it would be.
I think the answer to your question, Kevin, really is, we gave them a ballpark dollar figure of what they could go look at. And I think they went and looked at the worst of the worst. And once they got to where they figured that dollar figure was, they quit looking.
That was exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if we give them more dollars,
Yeah.
they can go look a little farther, but that's.
Well, it might be a priority. If you go look at it, it might be something we ought to prioritize. If there's some payback on that, it might be something we take a look at doing.
Yeah, in my mind, it's certainly a wise thing to do. Take a look at that.
Yeah, and our plan was, obviously, whatever you guys can give us budget-wise, obviously go with Jim, you get the priorities, and that's what we did with the dollar amounts you gave us, was like, okay, find something roughly in this area, and that's, Rich went down, we went right down the list of Jim's priorities, that this is the most, oldest equipment and stuff that I'm having the most trouble with, check that off until we hit $400,000. That was worth of stock. So, but if there was, obviously, if
there's more dollars, you can look farther.
Exactly.
And I guess on the Davis Bacon and that stuff, we do that quite often.
Yeah, I do it all the time too.
And we change order federal money into state projects. And you have to change order, it's Article 16 of the state general conditions. It has all the federal clauses in it. And that all carries with that federal money when it comes in. But, you know, it's doable.
I didn't say it wasn't doable, it just makes it a lot less complicated for us to, if we can keep it in the same contract, because then what I have to do is tell Dick Anderson, when we take this out, all of a sudden your contracts, and you're no longer just tracking Montana prevailing wage. Now you're
They're
gonna
the same thing now. Are they different now?
No, 100% different, yeah.
Montana prevailing wages and then Davis Bacon.
Right. But I think they're more aligned now than they were.
It's still from the standpoint of, I know what we have to have in our contracts from the state is Montana prevailing wage has to be printed out, fully set.
Right.
With all the wage determinations for every zone in the state. And then Davis Bacon, completely separate set of rollouts. This is what all the different classifications are. And the problem you get into is, okay, I've got a roofer in zone 3 here making $13.80 an hour plus a $5 premium on top of that. I go to Davis Bacon, and if they're not getting the same, I have to pay the higher of the two.
Right.
They have to figure that out. I can't go, we don't go figure that out. All of a sudden now they're trying to go between two big sets of documents to figure out, am I paying this guy the right number or not? But what ends up happening at the end of the project, everything's closed out. It's found out which one happened. We have to go back, us as the owner, we had to go back and pay all the classifications that were underreported on the prevailing wage side because Davis Bacon was less. Because we went out, we sat down with the feds and they said, this is exactly what you need to be going out with. We put that in our bid documents. State came in after the fact, sat down with, Dave Lucky, right? I'm sure. Sat down with him and goes through it. No, we have to pay the higher. And so we actually ended up having to pay.
Yeah, I can see that would be tough if you did it, try to clean it up afterwards. But if you do it, ahead, you change order it in, you have a pretty clear delineation between federal. I think part of the problem was keeping the money separate. And with a change order or different contract, you can do that. We've even used different project numbers, so the funding never gets mixed. It's always pretty clear.
Cannot do a change order with that funds to this project. It would have to be, I can do that with the bond, with the premium, because it's all part of the same project. And talking with Bia and Megan, as we walk through it, I cannot change order that in to the project. I've got to bid it separate. We're going to bid it anyways.
Right.
But you cannot change order it in. So I wouldn't be able to change order the RM to Dick Anderson. I'd have to run it separate. Whereas if I do this under premium, rolls right in. It's the same project.
Well, we've done that. So I don't know if we're going to jail or what, but we've actually done that, where we've changed the order. We've changed the general conditions with the change order. We had projects that come in over budget, they went looking for more money, the money came in as federal, so we had to change the general conditions to add that to the project. And that's the Article 16 of the state general conditions. So it's called the federal clauses, and that's how you. That's how
change
you
order
that.
Did you bid it?
What's that?
Did you bid it? Did you publicly bid that, or
Yes.
did you just change order it out to the project?
No, it was publicly bid. It was not awarded until the additional funding came in, and then we had to change order the general conditions into the project. It's Article 16 of the state general conditions. But that's how it was handled. Yeah, we're still walking around free, so.
Just to clarify, when you say we?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
The school?
Yeah, state.
The whole going to jail thing caught my attention. No, but that's actually how it's, we haven't done it very many times, but it's been done a few times. Russ Catherman's familiar with it, he kind of guided it, so.
Yeah, I know Russ really well. I'll call him too, but I talked at length with Megan and Andy about, because what I actually do want to do is change order it directly in, because you know how easy that would make it for us. If we could just change order that right into the contract, how simple that would be. And there was a hard no because of the ARA funds and the federal component to this. It was hard, you cannot do that, so.
And that was based on, why was that? Because of the reporting or?
To be honest, it had to do with, it's got to be bid out completely separate. How are you going to bring in a completely separate bid and change order that into the contract? Because we never know, you never know who's going to get it, right? What if a different subcontractor gets, you have no idea, right, who's going to get it, because we're going to bid it publicly, so what if another subcontractor gets it? And trying to bring all of that weight with it just didn't seem to make sense to us at all to do it that way. I was like, this would be so much cleaner to have it be, it's bond dollars, we already know it's there.
Yeah, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I see that, but, yeah, anyway. All right.
And when we set up the high school one, all the front end docks are all gonna be set too. So when that goes out to bid, completely separate, it's its own project, carries its own contracts, carries all the stuff is under its own entity off by itself versus trying to dovetail it into our bond projects. So that seemed to make, and I agreed with Megan on it. I said, I know it was gonna be a tracking nightmare, but
That was interesting, thank you. I don't know what you guys are even talking about.
it wasn't like we didn't look at it, didn't talk at length.
Yeah, but no, I appreciate the conversation, so it helps me understand just a little bit more about the processes that are involved around this, so thank you. Well, I'm going to move to approve because we can continue discussion if we need to, but move to approve the use of interest premium on middle school mechanical upgrades.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the use of interest premium on the middle school mechanical upgrades. Is there any further discussion? Discussion?
I would ask, is there a dollar figure that should be associated? Probably not, because you're going to take a look at the.
Yeah, we got a rough budget there for you.
But it's a rough budget, but.
Yeah, and there'll be bids, once the bids,
Yeah.
we'll know exactly what it is. We bounced that against, we took that out to a couple of mechanical guys and discussed it with mechanical engineers, saying, okay, this is what the school is looking for. It's rough.
Yeah.
Obviously, we gotta get it designed. That's what the designers are coming to look at that and start working on the full design. And then we'll take it out for bid, obviously.
Okay, but just regarding the motion, we don't need a dollar value associated with that. I don't think we do.
You know, the big reason we need to do it is because so that we can do the ESSER application.
Okay,
That-
okay, that
that's
ties
the
to it.
time
That's-
constraint,
Okay, that's a tie
Because
to
if
it.
we're
Okay.
gonna take those dollars, we need to be able to finish that budget
Okay.
for that application.
Okay.
So that's the biggest reason we need to make
Okay.
this decision tonight on which way we want to go with that.
And the middle school project proposal is in your board packet with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's how this
396,
comes
800.
together, so, okay,
Yep.
great, perfect, thank you.
Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Okay, I think that should let you two gentlemen off the hook. All right, thank you
Thanks
so
again.
much.
Thank you, guys.
You bet.
Okay, move to award press box construction bid to Dick Anderson. So everybody should have that in the packet.
Yep, you should have the bid in the packet, and I recommend we formally approve the bid. It was the only bid we received, so.
I'll move to approve the award to Dick Anderson Construction.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the award to Dick Anderson. Is there any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion passes. Approve MOU with Montana Digital Academy.
So they did have their board meeting and get us our new contract just today or yesterday. So it is included in your attachments, not your original board packet. And they do have a fee schedule included, so please take a look at that. And Sherry probably knows that better than anyone else here, and can speak to kind of the fees, the way they used to be and the new fees. So I don't know what you think of that fee scale there.
I know nothing about the fees on.
I believe they've gone up.
Well, at
So,
one point, they were talking about charging extra fees, or, so that might be it.
Yeah, it looks like
Classes or-
credit recovery classes, $61.50.
Where they used to be credit, when we used credit recovery, I don't think we paid for those.
It used to be, and I believe it was legislation that covered the cost for all districts in the past. And now they're needing to charge a fee. So this is one of those things that we can use ESSER funds on as well, because we'll be making up for those learning losses utilizing Digital Academy for some of those students. But yeah, they do have fees associated with it. I did meet with them and find out a little bit more about the individualized pathway courses. And I know that's used like in some of the, that's more for like Shodare or some of the other schools in the state that are not a public school or that kind of thing, but they're trying to make sure that students can earn credit while they're with them. So it's more personally designed for students in certain situations, not necessarily something we would use. So
And even that pathway to a GED or something.
yeah, or to complete, their freshman English classes. They get more one-on-one, they have like more of a one-on-one teacher and that kind of thing, where in the credit recovery, we have a teacher that oversees them doing the work. This is like kind of like a college class online, more for a student that is in a different setting.
And really, our teachers only just facilitate Montana County, getting the kids on, obviously helping them account. They still work with a teacher. They have a teacher for their classes outside.
Correct. Yeah. So the individualized, it's set up depending on a child's needs. It's in a different setting. So we wouldn't be looking at that fee.
I just hadn't seen it listed before in that way.
Yeah.
On previous.
I learned about that one at, I'm pretty sure Shodare's utilizing that one. I learned about that at a meeting there, so.
The quarter unit is interesting too, since most schools are using semesters to get credit.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting.
But this one's for semester.
That's not credit.
I know, the original semester.
Oh, I know.
They have a
And this
mixture.
one's semester, but why is recovery
I
quarter?
know.
Strange. Okay, I just find that strange.
Yeah, and the original athletic. Yeah, interesting. So,
So a class then and I'm just thinking out loud, for a 4-quarter class, a year-long class would be $61.50 times 4. Is that's what I'm seeing that correctly?
Yeah, and usually what happens is, some students unfortunately might fail both semesters, but usually it's one semester, so they're just, so it would be, double that times 2 to complete the semester of English that they failed, or the semester of, math or science. We've used it for a few different things, and a lot of times it's English.
Yeah, I was just curious about that. That was odd too. I hadn't seen, I think that's the first time I've seen that in this contract as well.
Yeah.
I move to approve the MOU with Montana Digital Academy.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the MOU with Montana Digital Academy. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just one minor thing. This happened before contract gets signed on page 2. They've got a little numbering issue with sections halfway down. So they rolled section 7 into section 6 where independent contractors are behind, so. Just a minor construction issue with
Oh,
the
yeah.
document, so. And then everything gets bumped down by 1, so just before it gets signed.
thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Approve the MOU with Helena College.
Montana Digital Academy. Yeah. Oh,
Nope,
okay.
we did that.
Helena College. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so sorry, I was just noticing also that the one that is in your packet has an error. Yes, but they did send I did call her and she did send the corrected one. So we do have the corrected one ready to go. And Dr. Bowman there, she's great. So I look forward to getting to work with her again. I've worked with her when she was at Salish Kootenai College. So I think that these are great opportunities for our students and look forward to learning more about that and how you guys utilize them in Townsend.
It's definitely an area that we'd like to improve on in a couple of different ways. And now, hopefully with the downhill slide of COVID, we can get back to it. It was something we were really had been diving into before everything got halted. So hoping to continue that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the MOU with Helena College.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the MOU with Helena College. Any further discussion?
Yeah, hold on, just, and that's, and I'm in full agreement, but I was just, okay, and that is simply around the courses. We provided a stipend ourselves because Helena College didn't, but that's going to be another issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's another issue. Okay, and I just wanted to make sure I remembered that correctly. Yeah, so I'm good.
Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approve the lease agreement with MC Cox.
So this is just an update of what you guys have been, at least you guys have been involved in for multiple years for storage.
Are we still trying to clean that out?
Which one is this?
That would be the one down.
The train depot?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Are we supposed to be cleaning it up in this garage?
Stuff out of there.
Yeah, multiple times. I
Yeah.
don't know if we did this year, but we have several times through the years and kind of thinned it out.
How big of an area is it?
It's
Square
pretty
footage?
big.
That's actually,
big, it's a big storage.
no, and that's
A lot of
actually,
it
About half of the
Desks.
building, isn't it? Is it about half of the building?
I believe so, yeah. And I think a lot of it is school furniture, things like desks.
It's half or 3/4 of that building. It's a big space.
I know they surplus, last year, the year before, a lot of the kind of obsolete equipment.
Right. They cleaned out
Just
some
no longer.
desks and chairs.
We just had a sale last week.
Storage is always an issue.
I was gonna say, it's probably not gonna be resolved with the new building, huh?
Probably.
It's something we can
Storage
take,
in the high school, really. I mean, it's pretty, yeah.
it's something we can take a look at though. I mean, it's
Definitely.
never a bad idea to take inventory of kind of what we have and if there's no point in storing things that we're not going to use, right? And paying for the storage of
I know
them.
at one point, Dad and Eric and I, and that was before Christina was here, I think, several years ago, we kind of went with Jim and toured all the, and it was just like, oh my goodness, you know, like complete all the stuff. And we did actually get rid of and clean out, like there was a crate over by the dump and there were several and we tried to consolidate and clean them. So we have done it, but it's probably well overdue to kind of do that again, because I know now it's kind of over in our rental garage over here now. That's what I was told the other day, that we've got stuff stored in there now instead of.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
I do
instead
think
of
a lot
parking
of
vehicles.
things
Yeah.
could be eliminated probably. I think we've, over the years, I think Jim and everybody else has tried really hard to always make sure we have things on hand, so we didn't have to go out and buy again. And I think some of those things have probably served their purpose. Get thinned out for sure. I know we do every year at our surplus sale, but.
Because the rent itself it's not that expensive, but
No, it's
to store stuff for just no reason that you're never gonna use again.
Yeah, and I think the question becomes, can we can we maybe get rid of some of that and then move other things that are maybe a little more important to keep, that we do need access to from time to time? Over there, you know, we just, it is, as each passing year goes, we accumulate more and more.
Might be a good idea to think about, closer to when we move into the new building, or I think, you know, we might see a big shift of things. That might be a good time to do it all at once, or maybe, I don't know, maybe we pick away at it.
This in the spring, kind
Yeah,
of work forward in the spring.
And I think one of the things we found in the middle school this year is we had to move everything out. We did put a lot of things that ended up in our surplus sale, and you know, the process, obviously, you have to go through to get rid of things in the school, and I think we really, that's one of the many good things of moving out of there, is I think we created a lot more space over there. Yeah, and I think we'll find the same thing in elementary school when we finally have to move out, things that we will choose not to move with us, so.
Well, that's what I guess I'm thinking. It'd be nice if we could get that done prior to, in case during that move,
we need
from the one
space.
we need space.
It's a good idea.
But we still need it for a year, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, is a year, because you have a 6-month lease and then a year lease.
Yeah, there's also an offer on the table to
Go
extend this
longer.
out to a 3-year term. So,
And we've had it for
and
many years.
the benefit of extending out the term is that you can lock in your lease rate,
Yeah.
which is what they're willing to do. No cost of living adjustment, no accelerator. There isn't anything like that that would cause the expense to go up for the term of the lease. But because the area that we're leasing under section 1 just says that it's the northern portion of the warehouse building, excluding the small office, because you have lesser retained space, we've got co-tenancy issues. Personally, I think it's advisable to say something like the northern portion comprising approximately however many square feet it actually is, about 500 square feet, if it's 1,000 square feet, putting the actual measurement on there, because the northern portion is, of that warehouse is somewhat vague.
The north 4 feet.
Yeah. And then there actually is one other thing on the lease agreement as well, under section 6. The first sentence says that lessor agrees to accept the warehouse on an as-is basis. Should be less than leased. So the lessor doesn't need to accept it because they own it. It's the tenants that actually accept when they move into the property on an as-is basis.
Well, I move to approve the lease agreement with Missy Cox with those amendments. With those amendments.
Mhm.
I'll second. I guess, do you want to proceed with the longer term, like the 3-year, or keep it as
My mind went for 1 year.
1?
Yeah.
Unless-
Can Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, I think, and either way, it's fine. I don't know what I do, like how much we save to go the longer route, but I mean, we've had it. I do not see a scenario in which we don't need that space.
Great.
We may not need it for what is currently in there, but I just cannot envision with looking at our storage available here, the things that need a situation where we won't need it in the next few, I wouldn't think, if it saves us significant money.
So also I'm not sure if I need to re-amend, but for 3 years, then around.
I don't think it was seconded yet.
So maybe I'm hoping, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
No, I, at that price, I mean, I can't honestly believe that as much as people look for storage,
Constantly.
that somebody isn't
If
trying.
we do, I'll sublet it.
Yeah, I think locking it in for the longer period of time makes sense.
Well, and even after the move and we get things organized and we, know what we can like Brad said, we always need storage for something or another. And even at that time, though it would be a transitional year, so 3 years honestly is not Big jump.
Okay, all right. So I move to approve the lease agreement with Missy Cox for 3 years with the stated amendments.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the lease agreement with Missy Cox for 3 years with the stated amendments. Is there any further discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approve the substitute list for the 2021-2022 school year.
That is in your packet, original packet, and this is the sub list that we currently have. Once again, it's going to be challenging to find substitutes. Hopefully not as challenging as it was last year. And I do recommend the board take a serious look at sub pay, you know, as we move into the budget meeting on the 19th and in the future, and kind of look at our priorities and directions we want to go. I think this is an area we really need to pay some attention. I think that the rate is quite low for similar school districts and neighboring districts, and it's not an easy job. It's hard to find people, and they're very, very needed. So I hope we can increase the sub pay and increase our sub list, and actually get them to come in if we do so. One thing to consider might be, I know a lot of districts, and the district I worked at last year, we did an additional $25 a day because of COVID, and used ESSER funds for that. And that's something that can be done, at least to try to get people in when we're really struggling, and they are, you know, coming in at risk, just like nurses and other folks that are kind of on call, that kind of thing. So something to consider.
Sub per day rate. I know the last couple that we've done exceptions to $75 a day was the number that always stood, that stuck in my head.
Long-term substitute.
That was, okay, so that was long.
$72.
72, okay.
I think
wanted
most
to say
districts
70.
are at least 100, and then we did 125. Like, I know in the kind of Gallatin area, most schools were around 125 a day for COVID sub pay.
Okay. So then, yeah, that would be something, and you know, using ESSER funds to, you know, to ramp that up. I mean, it seems like it would be.
Yeah, and then to try to figure out where we could get that sustainably for after us, or, you know, for the long term. Obviously, it's hard because, you know, I've been doing some research and looking at what's posted in town right now, and just the grocery store and everything else is paying a lot more. So I think the people that we do get to come in are just doing it to contribute to the community and do a great thing.
Right, and since we don't have a product that we sell, we have to absorb those costs and account for those in our budget, so.
Right, yeah, so I understand that we have to, you know, think about it and make a decision based on something that'll be sustainable after COVID, for sure. But I think it's an area we need to look at, definitely.
That could fit in with our strategic plan on professional development. So we can look into that and to see if that can, you know, be an emphasis on that as part of professional development. So.
Yeah, a lot of districts, even through COVID, have gone into the practice of having like a full-time sub on staff, which is someone that can be trained, you know,
Floater.
and could eventually maybe become a licensed teacher that, you know, is then ready and already part of the school team and everything, ready to go when you have a vacancy or a maternity leave or something like that. So,
You know, and I completely agree that needs to be taken a look at. And it becomes problematic. Susie, I think you're spot on with thinking and considering what happens after ESSER monies are gone, because then we have a huge hole if we're spending. You know, if we budget unwisely, then we have a huge hole that we can't fill. when those ESSER monies are gone. So, I think that's wise to consider that.
Yeah, so we'll see how, I think we'll see how this year goes, and hopefully we're more back to normal and don't need as many substitutes. And then if we do need to bring it back to the board, maybe we can consider doing something like that, like the additional under COVID kind of hazard type stipend be an option, so.
Okay, so we're just approving the list tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, I move to approve the 2021, 2022 sub-list as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2021, 2022 substitute list as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Acknowledge student attendance agreement.
We have only received one attendance agreement, and this family would like to attend a school in a different district, and we received a letter from that district. So I recommend that we approve this attendance agreement.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the student attendance agreement for the family whose child is going to be attending a different school next year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the student attendance agreement with the family whose child will be attending a different school next year. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Personnel, resignations.
So I recommend that we accept the resignation of Gary Bowman for junior high track, and then Linda Kent for her paraprofessional position. She was quite excited to come in and give us her resignation, and it's always great to see people. It's always hard to let great people go, but always exciting to see them pursuing, their career and moving forward. So she got an online teaching position she was excited about. So we're happy for her. So I recommend we accept those resignations.
I'll move to approve the resignation of Gary Bowman and Linda Kent.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved, and I guess I'd like to clarify. Resignation of Gary Bowman from junior high track.
Mhm.
Just to make that clear.
Nothing else.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Gary Bowman as junior high track coach and Linda Kent as a paraprofessional. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed.
Although I really appreciate Gary's.
That's in depth, wasn't it?
That's all we need.
Approve new hires, including. Go ahead.
So Sarah Tiffany subbed last year for Addie, and she did a great job from what I understand. And she is working on her special ed endorsement, and she's already taken classes this summer. So she's already taken case management and her Indian ed for all. So her Montana teaching license is being processed to be transferred. And so we were very lucky to get a special ed teacher, especially someone excited about the job. She just had great enthusiasm, and I think she'll be a really good fit with the team. So I recommend her hire as our special ed teacher for our elementary school. And then we also have Shaylee Chaplin, who we interviewed for kitchen aid, and Vicki thought she'd be a good fit in the kitchen. So I recommend their hires.
I move to approve Sarah Tiffany as an elementary SPED teacher for the 2021-2022 school year, and Shaylee Chaplin as a kitchen aide.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Sarah Tiffany as elementary sped teacher for the 2021-2022 school year and Shaylee Chaplin as kitchen aide. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. High school custodians.
So we would like to hire John Menard as the high school daytime custodian and Shane Neal as the high school nighttime and weekend custodian. So when we were looking at this, and I met with Sherry and we were talking about the activities especially, and the pressure that puts on Jim to get the gym clean. When we don't have someone in the high school on the nights or weekends, and especially with COVID and all the extra cleaning demands. So we thought it would be good to split this up. And so we worked out kind of an interesting schedule where they overlap for half an hour and can talk about where they left off on projects. And then Shane would have a flexible schedule on the weekends where, you know, he can come in and do it Saturday night or Sunday, whatever. We just need everything cleaned and ready to go for school on Monday. So I think it'll be a really great thing and really help us keep the school nice and clean and help Jim. So I recommend we approve John Renard and Shane Neal for high school custodians.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the hire of John Menard and Shane Neal for high school custodians.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of John Menard and Shane Neal for high school custodians. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Policies. Discuss previous practice and how the board would like to move forward with policy review.
So I was just trying to get up to speed on how you guys were working through policies previously. And so Eric informed me that he would get on the MTSBA website and then read policy recommendations and then just pick a chunk of policies and bring them to you guys to review each meeting. And you have kind of been keeping your own portfolio of policies. And so just wanted to inform you that we can continue to do that in that manner if that's what you would like to do. However, there are services provided. And so Elizabeth Clava sent me an example of what she did last month, just because we're colleagues, and also I know she works with your guys' school, but I reached out to her just to kind of see what she did in regard to policies and how she did it. And so she sent a whole docket of actual policies, you know, that were in changeable, like Microsoft Word versions that align to each of these policies. And then this is the notes that she sent with it. So we would go through each of the policies that she sent to, you know, as recommended that we adopt, and then her notes on those policies and do what we thought we wanted to do with them. So that's how she does it. She also offers a full-on policy review where she would go through all of a district's policies and look for any gaps or any of those kinds of things. That would be more costly than, you know, like her monthly sending the policies, that kind of thing. And then I'm sure you guys have heard of before, and I know we already work with MTSBA, but they have a policy program that you can be involved in for it's depending on your enrollment. So the contract that they actually sent is in your additional packet that you got today. And it would be $5,500 if I'm remembering correctly to have them manage all of our policies. And so the thing that I really like about that is that they are then responsible for keeping all of your policies up to date and online. And you just go to MTSBA and you type in the school district and all of your policies come up. And then monthly they send you the recommended policy updates, and then they send them to you in the Word form. So you change them in any way that you need to align with your district and send it back to them. And then they upload that and make sure it's all, they, you know, have the legal team review it, make sure it's all good. And then they upload it to your online policy portfolio. So it's kind of nice. Like if a parent calls or anything, you can say, you know, all our policies are right there online and available. And I mean, just really easy to search and access and that kind of stuff. And they just keep it all organized, and you never have to worry about missing any of the important policies. Especially I found it helpful last year with all the COVID policies and those kinds of things. But we can keep going the way that you guys were doing it before as well. I just have to try to figure out kind of where you left off and then how we need to move forward. So I honestly didn't have a ton of time to look into it. I just, when I was working on the agenda and everything, started reaching out to BIA and MTSBA and Eric to kind of try to figure out where we were and how you guys want to proceed. So just wanted to start thinking about it and see what your thoughts were on how you had done the process before, if you might be interested in using a service to do the policies in the future. So not anything we have to decide tonight, and you might want to spend some time looking at those or might have more questions.
What was Culliva's cost?
Well, for the monthly, where she sent the policies and these notes, she said a nominal fee, but in attorney language, I was choosing Jason. I don't know what that means. So nominal to me might mean something different to her. So I will be talking to her soon and can get a more concrete answer.
Last time we looked at this MTSBA, I want to say, working with our attorney, it was about 70% of the cost of what MTSBA charged. And MTSBA's charges are the same now as they were before. The difference being is substantively, I mean, in the policy review, say with BIA, we have a relationship with our attorney, and you're able to have those conversations, and I think they're a little bit more personalized, and I think that the direction that you get is not quite as, well, here's the universe of possibilities, and tell us what it is that you want. Anticipating what the client's needs are is something that any good legal counsel should do, at least in part. And so, I think that honestly, this is good money that's spent either way. I mean, you look at, this would be a drop in the bucket compared to the mechanical system outlay that we just discussed. Yet it yields totally different benefits. As far as indemnity and liability, and things like that. So, I think we could certainly look at, weigh those options between them. And I respect Kevin's opinion that he's expressed in the past that it doesn't help to have somebody do what it is that we should do anyway. And I don't believe that that's good public policy for the policymakers to not know what is in the policy, to not have input on whether something stands or changes or is superseded or what. And I think that we have more involvement, we would have more input with the relationship with the district attorney than we would with MTSBA.
Okay. Yeah, those are good things for me to know. And I totally agree. I haven't heard it from you yet, Kevin, but what Todd just said, I think that we have to be very aware and review our policies in depth. I think that it's important, especially in rural schools, that we make sure that the language applies to us and our community. So I'm not at all saying that I'm trying to say we should move over to a, blanket policy program or anything like that. I was just
part of it is not having an inventory per se of, say, a spreadsheet that had, each policy listed and the date the last time it was touched. Like if you go to the rules website for the Secretary of State, you go to search what that might be, or even if you're searching in statute, you'll actually be able to see the last time it was that the people actually worked on it. We have that within the documents that we have up on the website, but you're not really able to look at it from a table of contents view and say our 1000 series ones, oh geez, there's one that we haven't looked at since 2014. Or, and we have several that have been fairly recently done. And so I think there's some that get touched in this block and some that get touched in the 3000 block, for instance, with some of the things that we did in our discipline rules. And so But there, you can't really just look at it and say, geez, 70% of our policies have been looked at in the last 2 years. Or the last 4 years.
That's part of what I was.
Having a kind of a working inventory of
Yeah.
how things have aged, and I don't think it would be that difficult to, lay that out into some sort of a format, like a table, like a spreadsheet where it would have all those listed and the dates and that kind of thing. And then, maybe based on that, and I'd be happy to help with, trying to put like something like that together, because if we were to look at, as a goal for the district to review each policy, if we had 200 policies and we wanted to look at 4 policies for each board meeting, for instance, then, you kind of plot out your work schedule. And if we have 30% of our policies haven't been touched in a substantial amount of time, then, maybe we move those up to the top, and those that we have seen in the last year or 2 years, they get moved down a little bit. So you can adjust priorities, but until you actually know what the lay of the land is, to me, this is all kind of academic.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, just to address what Todd kind of closed up with there. We were looking at policies every 3 years. Each policy would be looked at every 3 years. When I first came on the board, we had school board bylaws. And if they were contained within the bylaws, I don't know. Or if that's state statute, it seemed like it was almost mandatory that we looked at them every 3 years. Is that a statute or?
That's a good question. The 3
There's
years,
something
what
out
was
there.
sticking in my head. And so
Yeah.
I was doing exactly what Todd was describing in my head and trying to figure out like where you guys were at and where we needed to be. And
Right.
math was like not quite adding up.
Well,
Like
we were
it'd
on-
be a lot of policies
We
each
were on a
meeting.
3-year rotation, and I think that was driven by, I don't know, but it seemed like it was statutory or something.
Yeah.
And then we kind of, as our superintendents have changed, that has changed. I think Eric's first couple of years, we didn't do any. And then he started picking up and doing it again. So yeah, that would be good to have some type of structure as to how those get reviewed. And yeah, in my opinion on it is, I think it's really a primary responsibility of this board. It's our primary instrument for guiding our administration in what, how we see our school and how our community interacts with our administration in school. So however it looks, I think the board needs to be involved in those reviews.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was just gonna mention as well, and this is something, I think our policies are all out there, and it's fairly, on our site, and it's fairly easy to go ahead and to put revision dates on the policies that are linked. Now, doing it's another matter, but it's fairly easy to do. So that would give us the ability, if we chose to keep it in-house, to be able to see which ones were reviewed and which ones weren't. So, and at what points in time. So that's a possibility. With MTSBA, just a couple of questions around this. So they'll host the policies that we have, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's part of the service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bea, do they provide a hosting service as well for the
I don't
policies?
believe she does.
She doesn't, so we would have to host those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
we do.
We do, and once again, if we just added a little more to the information on the links around those policies, that would provide enough
They're
revision dates.
grouped by 1,000 series,
They are,
2,000, 3,000 series. And so there might be, in 1,000 series, there might be 25 policies contained within that document. It's a little unwieldy.
But we could slap revision dates on the links themselves so that we would know.
But if you change one policy out of 25, how does that
affect the other ones?
Yeah, it will, but it doesn't affect the other ones though, until they've been passed, read, is reviewed, or amended, or what have you.
What would I should probably say, what's the impact on the others rather than effect? That'd probably be a more appropriate verbiage around that. Because there would be an impact on others. If you change something in one, there's an impact, or at least, some kind of aspect that would probably need to be taken a look at in other policies, reviewed and amended.
Okay, so, yeah, my recommendation is that everybody take a long, hard look and think about this on which way we want to go. I think there's a more effective and more efficient way for us to go about it than what we've been doing. And I really think one organization or the other has a better plan, especially when it comes to the importance of getting the revisions reviewed on a timely basis.
I just want to make
Not that we
sure,
take that
yeah.
out of our hands at reviewing those policies, because I agree wholeheartedly with what Kevin's saying. I just think there's a better way than what we've been doing.
I want to make sure we're keeping up and have all the, appropriate policies in place for school starting that legal minds have dreamt up over the summer and that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that we have, that we don't fall behind. So I want to make sure we have a plan and we're ready to move forward with adopting, policies that we need to have in place in September.
Well, we're coming off a legislative year, so.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Again, there was a ton of educationally oriented.
Correct.
Very, impactful policy, bills. And
Yep.
Established policy.
So
Okay.
we'll look at that and maybe next month we'll
Yeah,
get to
continue
where
the
we try and make a
conversation.
decision on that. Okay. Information items. COVID updates.
So in your new attachment packet, I just included a few things. We have a letter from Governor Gianforte and Superintendent Elsie Arnson on their kind of direction to schools. There's also a letter from the Broadwater Community Health Department about their meeting on the 17th. And there is an attachment from School Administrators of Montana, just kind of with some updates. I just thought you might be interested in what those different groups are saying. So wanted to just inform you of that. I mean, it's just day by day and keeping an eye on things and listening to where we're at with the CDC. And so does anybody have any questions about those documents or letters?
No, just a point of clarification, the governor's letter, and it is reiterated by the School Board Association, is that it is left up to each individual district to decide the path that they're going to take as far as what gets implemented into their schools, and that's consistent with with the governor's guidance from February. So, yeah, it is subject to change, but there is at least still that, the emphasis on local control.
Correct. And School Administrators of Montana and our congressional delegation have been working on that and, hoping to make sure it stays that way. Just like if you look at our state right now, there's certain counties that are struggling and most of the counties aren't. And so that needs to be a local control, a local decision for those schools. The one thing that is still in place is the mask mandate on public transportation, which includes school buses. And we will have to follow that until that gets resolved. I know that our congressional delegation are working on that and they're trying to get that relooked at, but that was a blanket mandate that came out from Biden and the CDC. So we are at risk of losing insurance for the school buses as well as federal funding if we do not comply with that mandate on transportation. So that is and I did participate in a meeting held with the MTSBA attorneys, and I believe Jason, I think you might have listened in on that one, and some other folks, maybe you guys did, but districts all around the state have been told by all of the attorneys that that's, just definitely mandatory.
That also includes activity buses, right?
Yes, and there's a whole, I'm sure you might have been following it.
Catching pieces of it. so
Sherry,
I
yeah,
was
there's a
wondering-
big chain where people are posting questions about it more and more every day, and the attorneys are responding. So there's a lot of information out there, but there's still a lot of questions, and
I think another question was like our vehicles too. Like
Yeah.
Suburban, the vehicles
Well,
that we
it's-
use.
They transport kids.
Yeah, Department of Transportation has regulations that define public transportation. That was the inconsistency because school buses,
They're not typically public.
they're not technically public, right?
Yeah.
They're contracted or whatever. with-
Well, you can't just jump on when, if you need a ride to town.
Exactly.
You know, you have to be
Yeah.
a student of the school. So they're not technically public transportation.
but he did specifically, Biden and the CDC list school buses in that mandate. So that's where we got stuck. But I haven't, we are still looking into that. So we haven't, really followed through with preparing for that. And we're, going to have to make that call and make that announcement, I guess, after the 19th, if we haven't heard that we've gotten any change on that. So we did talk about that, as we'll talk about later on in the transportation meeting. So those are the only updates that I have as far as I understand. We're hoping to be as normal as possible at school next year. We're going to have regular lunches and recesses, and masks are optional, and get back to school as normal as we can, and keep an eye on things, and just really hope that people keep in mind to stay home when they are sick, students and staff, and keep the cleaning and safety precautions in place are important, so that we can try to keep school as normal as possible, right? So that seems to be the thought, and we've talked as an admin team, and I've gotten to talk to a few of you about it. I don't know if anyone has anything else to say.
Supply-wise, we still doing okay. That was a big issue before, is there was funding for it. There were orders that were submitted, and fulfillment was always the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So how is the fulfillment end on the things that we would use and need most?
I can take inventory. That's a good point, Todd, and double check to make sure, if need be, we have what we need. But I know that we did do a large cleaning supply order with some of our end of the year funds combined with ESSER funds. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
The last news out of NHSA is proceeding as normal. That's the last news.
For sports?
Subject to change, but that's where we are right now. So as of now, there won't be, mandates on masks or anything of the sort for now. That was the last I heard.
All right.
Thank you.
Any of those other items?
Committees, the technology committee met and put out the agenda for technology days. I don't know if you guys have anything else major to report on.
Just that the team was great. Everybody met, obviously, at time when they weren't required to, off the clock. That's the word I want, off the clock to come and solidify that. So we have two really nice technology PIR days planned for the staff. That'll be next Tuesday and Thursday. So we did actually put out something new this year that we haven't done before, and put out a survey to the staff to kind of find out what areas they felt they needed the most. And we've got quite a few responses on that. I just checked it today, so that's good to help us kind of tailor, instead of reviewing the same things, what do they feel like they need. So that was really good. I expect we'll have a good turnout.
Well, and then could you just give us a brief overview of what those days look like?
Yeah.
Just so, you know, we were there, but just so everybody knows kind of what's included within those days.
Right, so, we generally usually start with some IT updates, you know, from Jill and Luke, kind of giving us anything we need to know as a staff, or, you know, the inner workings of technology in our school, and you know, Wi-Fi, all of those kinds of things, and then any updates. And then we have a couple of sessions planned that our teacher shares. So we did this last year and it was great. I think it was very engaging, where teachers bring different things that they are using in their classroom. Teachers teach teachers is basically what it is. And a lot of great things came out of that last year. We decided we would keep that in place. We have a couple of open blocks where we just call them work sessions. Where teachers can get their Google Classroom set up, and then we can address some of those other areas of need. Like, for example, probably the highest one right now is the teachers still want to learn about the different Google tools, and some of them want to refresh our Infinite Campus and what's new with that. And so we'll kind of do breakout sessions where we can address those with the teachers that want to need that knowledge or feel like they need to brush up on those kinds of things. So, and then Sean was going to bring somebody in for us maybe to help us out with, we'll see how the schedule works.
Well,
So,
you know, and this is the person I'd like to bring in is an academic technologist out of Carroll. Is a great guy, does a great job, just top notch. And he's on an 11-month contract. He probably won't be back on campus at Carroll until, well, hopefully in the next few days. So hopefully he will volunteer a few 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and discuss with the group via Zoom things like, you know, what a blended classroom is. What are the components of a blended classroom, and how can you adapt what you're doing and create that blended environment? Or what's a hybrid environment, or what's a flipped environment, and how do you create that environment, and what are the tools that you need? And additionally, what are some of the other tools that are really handy around creating engagement and motivation in the classroom? And so those are some of the kinds of things I'd like to have him speak to.
and then the situation that we, you know, we're actually a nice good shove into that really, I think it was a positive thing. I think it brought us up to date as a school and a staff in a lot of areas that we maybe weren't, you know, quite as advanced in overall as a district as we should have been. And boy, we saw some huge changes, and even when the staff started last fall and all of last year, I think there was a lot of improvement in those areas. I think our staff realizes now in a more general sense that these are great tools. There are so many applications that we can use for Google Classroom, and, you know, even just something so simple as when kids are absent, how they can still view their lessons or get their homework or get their, you know, instead of you got to come to the office and pick up all your hard copies. We saw a lot of growth in that. We saw a lot of growth in our teachers and how they use their technology and their online components. So yeah, I think it was really beneficial. I see this as an extension of where we've been shifting for the last year and a half, so I think it will be really good. Very, very productive.
Very much so, and you've done a great job leading that, Sherry. And I think it's going to be a great session. And the other thing I wanted to do was just mention, along with the technology committee and technology and tying that into COVID a little bit. You know, so Jason, you and I were on the committee that was taking a look at where to put those ESSER monies, you know, that kind of stuff. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, and I know y'all do, but you know, technology is one of those things that's kind of underneath the hood. And we need to spend the money on technology to make technology work. Otherwise, we don't work and school doesn't happen. So I think we've done a great job with a couple of things. You know, identifying monies to go to specific IT projects that will enhance the performance and security. Security is a big deal. Security of our school, and you know, give those students those value-added tools with which to work. And, you know, and from the technology committee perspective, to really start driving us in a more of a 21st century. I know that term is kind of used over and over, but the 21st century learning environment that's far more digital and global in nature. So that's where all that is.
Question, I guess, considering you're both on the technology committee, have you guys had the discussions about uses of ESSER funds, or trying to identify things for, say, cybersecurity? Yeah, are we, actually maybe kind of a precursor question, are we somewhat left on our own, or as a member of, you know, all the other districts and just being a part of Montana educational system, or is it being looked at that level and brought down, or are we kind of left to defend ourselves?
I think Joe can probably answer that fairly well for
Yeah,
us.
so, we are, I guess, kind of left out on our own in some ways to tackle some of this stuff. That is one thing that Luke has kind of really specialized in and has kind of taken a really strong look at over the last probably 3 or 4 years now. And we've both kind of worked together in developing a plan to handle that sort of thing. And there's definitely things in place now that we to handle that kind of thing. As far as ESSER money specifically being spent on cybersecurity, as far as to my knowledge, there hasn't been any. And that's just been because we've already had that stuff implemented in place. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't,
We
obviously
have
this
many
isn't,
programs we do.
yeah, this isn't
Yeah.
the right time to go probably into great detail, but the next time the technology committee meets, had perhaps, carving out some time on our agenda for a little bit of a presentation of that cybersecurity plan, the things that we're taking, that we're implementing both on systems end and hardware end and just business practices, and making sure that the information that we're entrusted with is held to the requirements that are set out in the law and things like that.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that too. Everyone's on their own. Everyone statewide on their own essentially. So state doesn't deal with cybersecurity.
Now, there is a group that Luke has been a part of that handles specifically that sort of thing. And in particular, this data, student data information and securing that.
But that's a different component. Well, that's the same component, but it's a different component than protecting your own personal local system.
Correct.
Yeah, the
But
data
that would be
services are
something
different.
I would find very informational and very, very beneficial to know. It would be to see the response plan and to see what that response plan takes into consideration, and all of the system requirements, because we see the different subscriptions and cloud-based services and things like that we're paying for, and it would be nice to make it a little bit more fungible.
And the student data plan is really pretty complicated around that, the licensing around that. And then as far as the local firewalls and security around that, I think Pine Cove is still managing that. That's our consulting service. And so they're managing that. And that's very oftentimes what you do as any organization. You bring in, of course, but for organizations, schools themselves, oftentimes it's consulting businesses that take care of a lot of that. They're the experts. They know what they're doing. They do this stuff 24/7. And there's so much happening every day. You leave it to the experts. That's something that you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You leave it to the experts, but since it is an under the hood thing, I mean, it's nice to hear from your mechanic specifically what it is that is broken or subject to breaking down. And like I say, that would be something that I would ask of the committee, that if at some point in time down the road that a presentation could be presented, or an assembly of that information, or even have Pine Cove do something like that to say, this is what you get from the services that you're paying for. That would be appreciated.
And I just wanted to really add quickly, even too, just I sit on the National Governors Association Cybersecurity Workforce Development Committee. It's a statewide committee. It's a federally funded statewide committee, and so I'm one of about 20 members on there, and so we're developing workforce development strategies statewide, and it's a whole of state perspective. But one of the things exciting for us here is there is several objectives around that particular task force. And one of those is K-12 education, and then how to integrate cyber into at grade level into K-12 education. And I CC'd all you guys on an email, but I invited three of our tech committee folks to participate on specifically that particular objective within the AGA workforce development. So hopefully they'll be able to participate in that, and then I think they'd be great at it. And so I'm just glad to have the opportunity to go ahead and include some of our folks in those discussions statewide.
One thing I can add quickly, I know that OPI is working towards a statewide system. Like, we use Infinite Campus and we contract with them individually. Some schools like Helena use Power School and others. So it becomes a real problem when, and that's why we have so many reports we have to fill out for the state, like teams and toes and all these fun things that Christy and I get to do. While we're trying to get this kind of stuff ready and have these deadlines, because in other states, all of that information is in your system and it goes directly to the state through those systems. They can pull that information directly, and all the schools have the same system, if that makes sense. So our state's very unique and a bit archaic that way.
And I would add to that, I was talking to Michael Sweeney, who's going to be in charge of the data conversion, $13.5 million project. And these are rough numbers, 12 different logins and like 60 different systems.
Yeah.
Is what they have that they're gonna migrate together.
That's what I used to have to work with at OPI, but they've been working on this conversion since I was there. So
well, they got some
we'll
money.
See what happens.
Yeah, they've got that money, and so Michael was excited about that.
He did a presentation on it at the meeting for administrators that Sherry and I went to. So
yeah, he had another presentation, probably the same presentation that he gave to, I don't know, somebody else. I visited, so it's exciting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be easier.
Yeah, that's a crazy number of different services to try to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no wonder you can't get good data.
Update on vacancies.
Okay, so we do have someone interested in our American Sign Language interpreter positions. We're really excited about that. Before, we were paying someone locally that, accepted a lower rate of pay than is usually the going rate. They are, they do have a degree and they have to be highly qualified to be a sign language interpreter in a school. The main programs are in Texas and Florida. It's very hard to find people in the state of Montana. The Montana School for Deaf and Blind finally got 2. We have an applicant is pretty amazing, but, we will have a impact for that on the budget. So that, but we're excited we have an applicant, and it's something that's required for us to provide FAPE. The only other thing we got was someone from Maryland that wants to do it on an iPad, and it's just really hard thing to do virtually. So that's the update on that. We still need paraprofessionals. I was excited. We had someone come in and get an application today. We really need those paras. We have some high need students coming in that need a one-to-one aid that we will be struggling to cover. So we really need those paraprofessionals. That's another area where our pay is pretty low, especially at the elementary level. And those people work really hard. And it's physically exhausting job. So that's something we're in real need of. So we're trying to get the word out and get some more paraprofessionals. Also activity bus drivers. We really need activity bus drivers. And so I've heard of a couple, people say first names throughout town or this or that, but we haven't actually had anybody come in, and we need someone actually on paper for those activity bus drivers. We did fill the KitchenAid, so that's exciting. And then another thing to think about is the paraprofessionals also help with recess and lunch duty, or like helping those students that need some additional work, right? Some of the smaller groups that you pull out because these certain groups need some phonics support or whatever. So another thing that we were talking about as administrators is a possibility of using ESSER funds for like a student learning loss interventionist, where they would go, they'd spend X amount of time with each grade level working with those students to try to get them caught up, those students that are underperforming. And then they could also help cover lunches and recess, that kind of stuff. So that's something that we were thinking about, that we talked about, and might have a proposal for you after we get done with the ESSER budget. We'll see how everything shakes out. So as far as sports go, I believe we still need junior high cross country
Yes.
and
Junior high volleyball.
junior high volleyball.
Yes.
And then we really need a cheerleading coach.
I heard,
So
I talked to a little cheerleader today.
I was the
so she
cheer-
updated.
I was the cheerleading coach last night. That probably shouldn't continue. So, yeah. They did a great job. Everyone did a great job at the athletics meeting last night. But we didn't have a cheerleading coach, and we had some girls that were very excited. So I'd love to see that. I've heard that that's been a challenge. Well, we'll get there. Anyways, I've heard that's been a challenge. I'd love to see us get some energy behind that and find someone that could really make it fun and positive for those young ladies. I think anytime, the data shows, anytime students are involved and excited about something at school, extracurricular, usually it impacts the academics positively. So I think that would be really great if we could find someone energetic and fun in the community to help with that. So that's it.
Okay, principals reports. Christina.
So I'm just gonna reiterate about the paras. We're down to 2 3/4 para in the elementary right now, which we have 2 one-on-ones. And I know we lost a couple of them because they got jobs elsewhere because of pay. And so I know that's a huge one for us, because right now we just don't have the paras to cover even our one-on-ones, much less recess or lunch duty. So I know that's something that really, something we can look at that pay or what we gotta do to get some people in here to help us out with that.
How many did you say a number that you need?
I need 3 more. I lost 3 1/4 for elementary, so. But I know we lost a couple because they got jobs elsewhere that was paying, I know one was $15 an hour. So to work here for, I think it was 10 or something, it's like, they're not gonna work here for that. And I don't know what the locals are paying around here, but. Grocery store and stuff. So we are gonna, like she said, we're gonna go for the full-on regular year. So we are gonna have our ice cream social. We're gonna have that on August 31st, 5:30 for K2 and 6 for 3-5. And then looking at our numbers right now, we haven't had new student registration, but we've already had 12 new students for 1-5. And currently we have 52 kindergartners. So we've got some nice numbers there. And then with the construction, recess is going to cut into our education time a little bit for a while because they don't have the corridor open yet. But once we get that open, we should be able to get our recess back to a little bit normal. But we'll have to be escorting around the building again. So it is going to cut into it a little bit, but hopefully not very long. We can get it back to quickly moving through the middle there. That's all I have.
Brad?
Yeah, same thing, paras, subs, activity drivers are a big issue. I mean, you guys know that. It's the challenge every year, so hopefully we can get all that taken care of and handled. Enrollment in the middle school is right now fairly steady. We've had a net increase of about 3 or 4 over where we finished the year. But there's a huge, this next probably 14 days is huge because other schools will start requesting records of students that have moved that we're not aware of. And then construction-wise, we are going to be, as we found out today, at our construction meeting, we're going to be pushing it very, very close for the middle school. And those teachers are kind of enduring a pretty good hardship, not complaining because they're getting something out of it for sure. And we're very happy to have it, but they're going to have very little time to get things moved in, organized, and then, you can work all you want. There's nothing quite like being able to work in your workspace. They've been great about it. Construction guys have been awesome. They keep us updated. They're really, I feel like doing everything they can to get things done. And we knew going into this, it would be really tight, but it's going to be a challenge for everybody, from the construction guys to the custodial staff to the teachers that are actually in those rooms. But we will be ready to roll. We're lucky to be in that. I think everything kind of, there were so many, I think it was kind of a little bit of a unique school construction project. I think there were some significant delays with things that were beyond anybody's control with our current climate. And we're just really happy that it's where it is now, and we're on schedule with 10 days ago or 8 days ago to get them in the rooms. And I think
23rd, when they're looking to move.
I think we'll be able to actually start moving on the 18th and 19th, barring any last minute. They're down to just the nitty gritty, but then watching, fun thing to say that, another thing to have it. I think I really feel like the electrical guys and the painters are really up against it. They're working frantically to watch them down there. So
We'll see. Accept some volunteers, couple bodies for a couple hours here.
Absolutely. We're ready to move. Yeah, as
Oh,
soon as
man.
we can. I think we'll take anybody that can to help. And then, I guess the last concern I have is, I know we've referenced several times, we're proceeding with the school year as normal. And I just don't know that that's true. I think, the whole COVID thing is an issue, and it's going to be an issue. And I have concerns over what the expectations are going to be from, last year we spent significant time contact tracing. And I remember when we removed the mask mandate, I said, I just can't do it anymore, especially if we're going to have increased numbers. And I think, I think the evidence is there right now that there probably is high numbers as there's been at any point. And if the expectation from the county, from the state, whatever, is going to be that we contact trace, I don't even know what the current, we talked about CDC. Obviously we're not following all CDC recommendations because they recommend wearing a mask. So, I don't know what the CDC says we're supposed to do currently if somebody has exposure. I don't know how, I don't know how that's changed. I haven't followed that probably is. So I guess I would ask for some guidance as what the expectation is, because I struggle with saying we're going to be contact tracing if there's no mitigating things going on. Yeah, you can say you're cleaning or whatever, and I think that we've had this discussion before. That looks great and everything else, but I guess I just want to know going into it before I put on the spot as to what the expectation is if we have students who come up positive, because it very much altered my job, these people's job last year when we had to do that, and I don't know where we're at with that.
Susie, do you think we might find some of that out, or that might be part of the discussion at that meeting?
Yeah, I'd love it if you could join me, Mr. Rock, on the 17th for that county health meeting. And I'm hoping that's where we'll get those answers.
Right, because I just don't know it's feasible too. If you're gonna have, but whatever, I guess we'll deal with that when they tell us what the expectations are and what the current guidelines are for us to do that. I guess we'll see. Because I would venture to say students 12 and over, we have a very low vaccination rate in our district, based on what our county-wide one is. And I hope it is normal, because I mean, I have kids in school, I'd be very, very disappointed if, especially if something semi-avoidable, to have them lose events and those kind of things. I don't want to see that for kids. So.
Mhm.
Thank you. You said the meeting's 17.
Yep, from 1 to 4. So we'll miss a little bit of our technology day, so we'll kind of have to divide and conquer. But
we already kind of covered tech committees, we're good there. The kids will start their practices on Friday, and I've lots of kids in and out of the building, they're very excited, so it's fun to see them. And I see Susie has some of this on hers too, I see. They started their physicals today to get all of that done, so Mr. Odell is doing a fine job with a very large learning curve, and Mr. Rell's doing an excellent job helping him learn all the ins and outs of being the new AD. So they're working quite well together to make that transition. And I helped Mr. Odell work on a bunch of schedules today, and we'll have everything hopefully all together and lined out. So good team effort, getting everything up and running for the school year. It's going well. We have I'm hopeful we'll get to do our freshman orientation as we've done in the past. I have that set for the 24th at 6 o'clock. And then the blue and white scrimmage, that's always a big thing that everybody wants to know about. It's going to be the evening, Thursday the 26th. Volleyball starts at 5 and football will be at 6. And as I already stated, as far as MHSA, as of now, is stating that we are, under a normal situation for now. And then homecoming's late this year. That's nothing to put on your radar. Just the way the schedule fell and putting games together. It'll be homecoming week's the week of October 4th through the 9th. So we'll have the appropriate games on Friday and Saturday for football and volleyball for homecoming. So I'm now looking forward to starting a new year. And I've already had a lot of teachers contacting me with a lot of questions, and so that's good. Everybody is August 1st comes and your educator teacher brain shifts to school. You can't help it. So I think everybody's thinking about it and getting ready to come back and get rolling. So looking forward to it.
all right. Thank you. Yeah, it's been exciting to have the building back in action, but it's crazy how fast it's going. And a goal of mine is to really keep in good communication with everyone, especially with all the transition. So I'll be sending out weekly letters to you guys as a board, as well as the administrative team and to staff. So we talked about having admin team meetings on Monday mornings as needed. And, I'm looking forward to jumping in and saying hi in their staff meetings, and also getting into the classrooms and reading to the little ones or doing some projects with the older ones and those kinds of things. So looking forward to school starting. One of the things that I've been working on with Vicki is the SSO free lunch program. So that is the seamless summer option is what SSO stands for. And it is a program that started under COVID. It was in effect last year and is the application, I didn't check today, I've been checking daily, should be open any day now for this year. So all students get to eat lunch for free, hot lunch for free. And we get a $4.37 reimbursement for each student that eats, I believe is the amount. And under the traditional program we've been using, it was like $2.78 or something. So it's a higher reimbursement rate. We really won't know how it impacts our, our income. We've been running pretty flat line in the kitchen, except for last year. We took a big hit because of all the separating everything out and just all the protocols, and I think less people eating at school and just all those kinds of things. So last year the kitchen budget took a hit, but we would really like to try that program. I think it'd be a great thing for the community and for parents, especially those that have had hard times with COVID and those kinds of things. And it just puts everyone on an even playing field, and everyone's offered the same access to same options at lunchtime, and which is required by law. And so that's something that I think we should really consider. And Vicki and I would like to move forward with that program. The summer lunch program, OPI audit. We had OPI staff here, and they came and did the lunch in the park, and they were super excited. They just had huge smiles on their faces. They said it was one of the best lunch programs they've ever seen. They couldn't believe that there was like a nice hot option or a sandwich, and how much fun everyone was having, and how much our staff, Laura and Danielle, and Vicki helps them with certain components of it, and how they were interacting with the families and with the children, and just that we did a stellar job. So that was really great news. With the transportation meeting last night, we have been looking at an additional stop needed in the Sandhill area, which Sean can speak to more in depthly because he lives up there. But there's a whole group of new kindergartners up there, and it's like 2 miles from the bus stop. So that's an area that we're looking at and working with the county on putting in a stop. So back to school plans. We already talked about Tech Day in depth, and then definitely another day that we're going to do this year is a literacy day, and Christina's been helping me organize this. So as we've talked about, our first step for tackling curriculum is going to be the elementary reading and literacy curriculum. And so I got on the horn and got samples coming there. We've got, I don't know where Jim has them all. They're everywhere. There's boxes everywhere. And it worked out pretty well because the school I just left, I did a large order. So they knew I meant business, and they sent us all kinds of great stuff that the staff will get to look through. So on our literacy day, we're going to review the science of reading, which is kind of where the team left off last year. And then we're going to jump into talking to some experts about some new programs that are out there. And the staff will get to listen to some information on various programs. I think it's really important that the staff selects the program that they're going to teach, because we want them to want to teach it and teach it with fidelity. It's not good if it comes from the top down. So giving them lots of good options, and then lining up teachers that are actually teaching those programs across the state that they can do Q&A sessions with virtually. So we're excited about that, and have some experts that recorded some videos for us that we're going to share, and those kinds of things. And then we're going to have a section on data, and it should just be a really great day. So it'll work just like the tech days. It's an option for them. So they could do like one tech day and one literacy day, or they can do all three, however they want to do it. And that's mainly for, K-5, but the middle school could benefit from it as well. We already went over activities. Thank you, Sherry. So Transform Townsend, I sent you guys the email, but Ashley and Eric Kruger, last year they did Transform Townsend as something that they started up last year. They did it for the first responders. So all the fire department, the police department, and EMTs and all of them, they did a barbecue for them in the park. And they did community service projects around town. And this year they wanted to do it for educators, since they acknowledged that it was a hard year last year for all of our great admin team here and their staff. So that is in the park on the 15th at noon. And if there's any community projects or any projects around the school, it's really hard because of the construction going on. So I've had a hard time coming up with projects for them. So if you could help me think of anything. I was hoping that we could start moving
Right, we were hoping.
on the 15th, but they're putting the ceilings in the 16th and 17th, and it sounds like pulling wires still from what we learned at our meeting today. So that's not going to work. So if you can think of anything where they can help in the community on the 15th or school-wise, please let me know. That was very kind of them to do that. And Oh, I also included in your packet, and just something you can look at it and we can talk about it in the next meeting, is the REA membership, Montana Rural Education Association membership. We've been a part of in the past. I believe Christy and I, it seemed like you guys had been members before, so just weren't sure if you wanted to continue that membership. Dennis Parman and I talk regularly, so I'll make sure he changes that name and we get that adjusted. And it's good to be, in the loop with those schools and have those people to reach out to when we have different needs than the larger districts, and that's kind of what they focus on. So just let me know what you think about that, and if you want any more information on kind of their services and how that works for us. So I don't want to go too much longer. We've covered a lot of things tonight. I'm sure glad we separated out the budget meeting. And I guess on my final note, I just want to thank Christy. She's been a rock star, and I think we're making a great team. And she got the TFS, the Trustees Financial Report Summary report done, and in record time, especially for being new in her position. So I'm just, it makes my job a lot easier, and just appreciate all your long hours. She's been here weekends and late nights getting ready for that budget meeting. So.
And there were some delays from the county side of that.
Yes.
Compounded the problem.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Just so you all know, budget meetings are required to be done by the 20th, and the board has to approve the budget by the 25th, adopt the budget by the 25th. So most districts don't have them till later in the month, but especially because also you're waiting for the county numbers, which we got really late this year. So they worked hard and they did their best, but they had their own things going on. So it just kind of trickles down. So I think really nice to have that separate, so we're fresh for the budget discussion too. So
On MREA, that's typically B and C schools, or do they go with any A schools? Because they're smaller schools.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, they have some bigger schools that, but I mean, maybe a few make some A's, but not the doubles. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Then there's the Small School Alliance. Let me think of how I'm saying it. I'm not saying it right. The really small school group. They're more like the C group.
And K8s. And
Small School Alliance.
all that.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Nothing else. We'll see you on the 19th, and meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.